She's going to talk about her bankruptcy experience and see what she has to say, and I'll give my thoughts as we go. Let's see.
Everyone was right. Bankruptcy ruined my life. Filing bankruptcy was the worst thing I've ever done. Can't get approved for anything. My credit score is shot. I couldn't get a place and I could not find a job. Is what I know y'all wish I would say, but that is not true. Bankruptcy was the best thing ever, 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 ever. I want to talk about today why bankruptcy might be something you want to consider. It has changed my life. It has really helped me out. And I feel that the rich use it so much, and they're so smart because that's how they stay rich. They don't mind filing bankruptcy. But for some reason, the people who are middle, lower class, they don't want to do it. So let's talk about it, okay? So first things first is there's a lot of negative stigma around bankruptcy. Everyone acts like it's just the worst thing that you could do, as if being in a bunch of debt that you can't afford isn't worse. Filing bankruptcy gave me so much relief, guys. I remember having creditors call my phone every day asking for money that I did not have, and I was so stressed out and so overwhelmed by the letters, the lawsuits, everything. I am so glad that I gave myself a clean slate. I want to talk about a few things like my 1 year update with filing bankruptcy, and then also how I grew my credit score from a 438 to a 700. For those who are new, I want to give you a little backstory. I started a rental car business and I was doing Turo at first, but then I ended up doing private car rentals. I had a fleet of 15 cars. I ended up $1 million in debt. That is not a made up number. It was $1,037.48, something like that. I don't make $1 million. So I had no idea how I was going to pay that off. I was on the verge of losing my house. I didn't know what to do. Every state has different laws, so you definitely want to consult an attorney. And most of the time, or usually all of the time, it is free to consult an attorney. You can also look into going through the process yourself. I don't know much about that, so I'm not going to talk too much about that.
This is the thing which I think she hasn't mentioned it, and most people don't mention it. So she's talking from the perspective of bankruptcy, and she's like, well, look, it's the greatest decision ever, right? The rich choose it. One thing you have to realize is decisions can hit differently based on where you're at. So rich people can utilize bankruptcy in a very different way than poor people can. Obviously, the goal is still the same, right? You'll put yourself now in a situation where all of your major debts have been wiped away and it's like a clean slate. Yes, that is true. That is one of the benefits of going bankrupt. You have a clean slate. But she's not talking about any of the negatives. The fact that she can talk about running a business into the ground highlights many different things. Maybe she's not good at financial management. Maybe she doesn't have financial discipline. Maybe she's not good at keeping her word. There are multiple things which going bankrupt showcase to you. And this is why what I said previously about it being different when you come from means, when you don't come from means, matters. Because if you don't come from means, as she was saying, middle class and lower, going bankrupt showcases that you've given your word to multiple different people. I'm going to pay you, and you didn't do it. That alone is one of the reasons why many people wouldn't declare themselves bankrupt. You know why? Because their word matters to them. The Bible says in Proverbs 23 verse 1, Proverbs 22 verse 1, a name is better than riches. It's better than silver and gold. So what does that mean? That means I want to make sure that when I say something, I deliver. There's another proverb that talks about doing things even to your own hurt. So if you say something and then you find out it's harder to do it than you initially thought, you still need to do it because your word matters. When you declare bankruptcy, people know that your word doesn't mean what you think it means. Some people don't care about that. Some people value their name very highly. Why? Because your name will get you into certain doors which a bad name won't. Your name will open up certain things which other people will be telling people about you. Yeah, you know what, so-and-so, you can bank on them. When they say something, they're going to do it, even in a difficult situation. These are the infinite things, scenarios, which she's not talking about. And she may not care about, because in her mind, she's all like, well, look, I saved my house. You did save your house. Your credit score is back to normal. Yes, like no one's saying that you can't use this situation and get better from it, but don't disregard the major negatives that come from it. I actually said, which is important, bankruptcy is different to varying degrees where you live. That's obviously vital as well. So yes, speak about the pros, but don't outweigh or don't disregard the cons which actually come with this as well. So many different cons. And again, this is why when you think about being from a rich household or in a rich setting matters, because you may not be able to start a business again for yourself for X amount of years, but if you're rich and you've got connections, maybe you don't need to. If you're from a middle class or you're poor, maybe that's not the best decision to do, because these are some vehicles which can help you actually get out of this situation at some point in the future. So she over leveraged herself, and obviously it came back to bite her.
But that is an option as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is building credit, because the first thing that matters is getting your credit score back in order. Here's what I want y'all to understand. The earlier you file, the better. Don't let a bunch of late payments report and all of that. That doesn't delete when you file bankruptcy. Do you understand? The late payments, the deferments, that doesn't just disappear after you file. It will impact your score and it'll stay on your score, okay? You wanna file ahead of time. Once you file bankruptcy, not once you're discharged, once you file and it goes into the system and it's reported to the credit bureaus, you immediately wanna start building your credit. So my method is always secured credit cards. I went through a few companies, which I want to list here. Open Sky, Mission Lane, Credit One Bank is another one, and Capital One. I have heard with Capital One, this is just a rumor, that even if you add them to your bankruptcy, they will allow you to get a credit card with them. I can't confirm if that's true or not. I will say that I avoided all of the creditors that I added to my bankruptcy. When you file, you immediately want to start building credit. You don't have to wait until it is discharged. That is a big misconception. Go ahead and start building now. I started with the secured credit cards first, and then after about 60 days, like after discharge and everything, that's when I went for the unsecured cards. Now, this is not professional advice, but the goal for me is to apply for things right around the same time so that the inquiries fall off right around the same time. Now, the reason why I say to try to focus more on secured is you don't want a lot of inquiries on your credit report. You are able to dispute your inquiries. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube about that, but you don't want to have a bunch of inquiries and getting denied. So that's why I say avoid institutions that you added to your bankruptcy, but then also to don't try to get a whole bunch of, get like a good 3 or 4, right? That's what I did at least.
Obviously it makes sense in theory what she's saying, right? Don't try and go back to the companies that you defaulted on, because they're likely not going to give you a new credit card. And what's amazing, one of the things I'm thinking as she's talking is, look, the reason you're in this situation is because you mismanaged credit. So going back into credit is just a recipe for disaster. It's like what's different now that isn't going to happen again? What have you learned? What have you changed? What's internally? What deep work have you done mentally to switch from what got you into this situation into a different scenario? All it sounds like is you're going back into the same trap. There's nothing stopping her from starting another business and getting over leveraged again and thinking, well, you know what? I'm just going to declare bankruptcy. You hear what she's saying? Do it early. Don't wait. So it's almost like in a lot of people's minds, they're just like, when you think about what she's saying, is break your word as quickly as possible. No, you should be thinking not to break your word in the first place. How do you stop that? You don't over leverage yourself. Even better way to not over leverage yourself is to not play in this credit scheme, in this credit game, which is designed for you to fail.
Immediately after I got the lines of credit, my credit score started to grow. You do not, with secure credit cards, want to use more than 30%. I didn't use more than 15%. I was only using my cards for small little things, i.e. going to get boba with my son. That's like 15 bucks. Maybe to get gas, something like that. Things that were small. Do not get yourself back into a bunch of debt after you just file bankruptcy. Just don't do it. Okay, be smart about it. Use less than 30%. The utilization is a big part of your credit as well. Keep it low. So after I grew my credit score to about a 675, I want to talk about with my car, me refinancing. When I first got my car, because my credit score was a 550 and I had just filed bankruptcy, I was considered high risk. So I had to go through a crappy bank and my interest rate was 14%. Once I grew my credit score after using my credit cards and things like that, and now I had another open line of credit with my car, you are able to refinance. Let me tell you the trick to refinancing properly. And this is not financial advice. Please do not sue me.
It's definitely not financial advice. And this is the kind of thing I was saying before. And I mention this all the time, right? You don't want to be paying car payments every single month. It doesn't make sense. You're just setting yourself up for financial failure. Buy the car outright. Buy within your means. Buy a vehicle which you can afford to purchase and maintain. All this $400, $500, $600, $700 plus a month on a car note is stupid for most people. If you've got bags of money, then do you, boo? You've got more than enough. It doesn't even really matter at that point. But most people can't afford $500, $600, $700 a month on a car payment, because that obviously comes with other stuff as well. Insurance, it comes from all of the other stuff which you have to pay, which people never think about. She's on a 14% interest rate. That's money she's throwing down the toilet on a car, which she clearly cannot afford.
My method when it comes to your car. When you get a car with a crappy interest rate, the goal is to pay down the principal as much as possible so that when you refinance, you're refinancing less. Majority of the payment that you pay with the car note is going to go towards interest when your interest rate is that high. Does that make sense? A portion of your car payment goes to interest, another part of it goes to principal.
So the interest is the debt. If you just to simplify this, most people don't know this, most of the money you spend on your monthly payment is to pay down the interest, the free money that they created from loaning you the money. That's how they make so much of the money. Not from the principal, the money you're supposed to pay every single month for the car. It's for the money that they've lent you. The 14% that you're paying back, that's free money that they've just made out of thin air because you said you're going to buy a car above your means, which is likely going to bite you at some point in the future.
The principal is what you're trying to pay down. The interest is what the bank gets for holding the loan. Okay, so when you're paying down a car loan with a high interest rate, you want to focus on making principal only payments. In order to do this, you have to be caught up on your payments. You can't just say, oh, I just want to pay, the principal and not the car note. You have to be paid up. So for me, I always stay 2 months ahead on my car note. Right now it's July, my car note is paid up until September. All the payments that I make are just straight to the principal. I make sure that it goes only to the principal to pay it down. So back to what I was saying, when your car is a high interest, focus on the principal only payments. Pay it down as much as possible. In about 3 to 6 months, you can refinance. I didn't wait 6 months. Since my credit score jumped up the way it did, I went ahead and refinanced after 3 months. So after I left the bank that I was with, I went to the new bank. My interest rate went from a 14 to a 9%. So now that it's at 9%, yes, that's still kind of crazy, but it's lower. So a lot more of my payment goes towards the principal now because I'm not paying as much in interest. And I hope I'm making sense. If not, I'm really sorry. And I could do another breakdown too because I'm paying off my car right now. So just let me know if y'all need that. Now that I'm paying more of the principal and I'm knocking down the balance even more, I may refinance again because my credit score is now a 700. After filing bankruptcy, the third thing that I did was work on rebuilding my savings. I had went completely broke. I told y'all before that I was working at a job where I wasn't really making a lot of money, and I used majority of the profit from my house to maintain my bills. I was making about $15,000 a month worth of payments for the cars that I had, which I technically did not pay them because the cars kind of paid for themselves. I'm gonna be honest, your girl was making some money. It was the lawsuits and the other things of why I stayed underwater. Now that I had no more payments, I was extremely aggressive about saving majority of my check, right? So when I finally got my good job, I made it a goal to live off of only 50% of my income and then save the other 50% of my income. Pretend that majority of the payments are still there and pay them to your savings, guys. You want to get aggressive for at least the first year. My goal was to save $10,000, and then now I can focus on paying on my car, which is what I'm doing now. You probably, after paying all of those bills and had all that debt, you probably weren't able to save much. So you want to aggressively start saving. Put that money up. Start your emergency savings, start your FU fund, whatever you need to do, but start saving aggressively. So now I want to talk about with apartment hunting. When you're in
All right, guys, listen, if you want me to continue with this video, definitely let me know in the description box in the comments below. But we kind of see what's going on here. We see what's going on, right? So she's in a situation where she's doing more of the right stuff, I'd say, right? She sounds like she's doing the right stuff. She seems like she's learned some of the lesson, but I'm not fully convinced that she has. But at the end of the day, saving money is obviously a good thing. You obviously need money for a rainy day, as they say. And at the same time, the whole car situation, like, to me, I don't get it. One thing I need to understand though is why she's getting all these lawsuits and the other stuff which she didn't necessarily mention. Those are the things she says are what messed her up. But we need to know what those things are to really understand if you did those things because of negligence, as in it's your fault, or if it's something which is completely different. That matters a lot when it comes to finances and the breakdown. Because if it was her, she's going to be back in this scenario at some point in the future. But she seems to be in the right place. But guys, that's all for now. Don't forget to like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And as also always, don't forget to react righteously. God bless.